The quantum batteries of the Valiant Dawn had burned out 3 cycles ago. Now the ship drifted like a tombstone through the Crixian Nebula, its hull scarred by plasma fire, its corridors silent save for the rasping breaths of the dying. Commander Arik Vale pressed his hand against the breach in his chest plate, feeling the warm wetness spread beneath his fingers. Around him the bridge crew lay motionless at their stations. Good people, brave people who had followed him into the maw of the Drathkar Armada without hesitation. He had failed them. Commander. The voice resonated through his neural implant, deep and ancient. Dravara's consciousness brushed against his own, a presence like molten gold flowing through darkness. Your vitals are critical. I'm coming to you. No. Arik's voice came out as barely a whisper. Hold position. Protect the civilians. Below decks, 2,000 refugees huddled in the cargo bays, families from the colony worlds, children who had never known anything but war, elders who remembered when humanity first reached for the stars. The Valiant Dawn was their last hope, and Arik had sworn to deliver them to the sanctuary systems beyond the frontier. But the Drathkar had found them. Always, they found them. Through the fractured viewport, Arik could see the enemy fleet regrouping, their obsidian warships blotting out the stars. The Drathkar didn't take prisoners. They didn't negotiate. For 300 years they had swept across the galaxy like a plague, consuming worlds and erasing civilizations. Humanity had been their latest target, and humanity was losing. Kane. Arik's thoughts reached out to the other presence bound to his consciousness. Status? The wolf's response came swift and fierce. Engineering is compromised. Life support failing in sectors 4 through 9. Enemy boarding pods detected on the lower decks. A pause, then softer. Brother, let me come to you. Stay with the refugees. Arik forced himself to stand, his legs trembling. That's an order. He had found them both on Dracor Prime 5 years ago. Dravara had been chained in the fighting pits, her wings clipped, her fire dimmed by starvation and cruelty. Kane had been hunted through the waste districts, his pack slaughtered for sport by the corrupt magistrates. Arik had been a lieutenant then, young and idealistic, and he couldn't walk away from their suffering. He had freed them both. And in return they had given him something humanity had lost centuries ago, the bond that existed between warriors who would die for each other without question. The Drathkar called it weakness. They said humans were soft, that their attachments made them vulnerable. But it was that bond which had carried the Valiant Dawn through 17 impossible battles. It was that bond which had saved thousands of lives, and now that bond would break. Listen to me, both of you. Arik stumbled toward the command console, each step an agony. His vision swam, darkness creeping in at the edges. When I'm gone, don't. Dravara's mental voice cracked like thunder. Don't you dare. When I'm gone, Arik continued, his fingers dancing across the holographic interface, you get those people to safety. You remember why we fought. You remember. The ship shuddered as another volley struck the shields. Alarm screamed. Through the neural link, Arik felt Dravara's rage building like a supernova, felt Kane's desperate fury clawing at the edges of his consciousness. I'm setting the reactor to overload, Arik said quietly. 15-minute delay. Enough time for you to reach the escape pods and— No! Both voices shouted in unison, a harmony of dragon fire and wolf's howl. But Arik had already entered the command sequence. His hands moved with practiced efficiency, even as his strength faded. The reactor would take half the Drathkar fleet with it when it went. The refugees would have a chance. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry. Then his legs gave out and Commander Arik Vale collapsed to the deck of his ship for the last time. Dravara felt the moment his heart stopped. The bond, that golden thread that had connected them for 5 years, went slack, then cold, then silent. And something inside her shattered. She was supposed to be escorting the civilian vessels toward the nebula's edge, her ancient form wrapped in stealth fields, her weapons powered down. She was supposed to follow orders. Instead, she roared. The sound tore through space itself, a fury so pure and ancient that the Drathkar ships closest to her recoiled instinctively. Her wings spread wide, each scale shimmering with bioelectric energy. Fire, true dragon fire, the kind that could melt starship hulls, erupted from her jaws in a torrent of white-hot plasma. He's gone. Kane's voice in her mind was hollow, broken. Brother is gone. Then we make them pay. Dravara's thoughts were ice and iron. We make them all pay. She dove toward the Drathkar flagship, her massive form moving with impossible grace. Missiles screamed toward her. She burned them from the sky. Energy beams lanced out. She wove between them like smoke. She was ancient when these invaders first crawled from their worlds. She was fury incarnate, and she would not stop. On the lower decks of the Valiant Dawn, Kane abandoned his post. The refugees were loading into escape pods, their faces pale with terror. They would make it. Auric had ensured that. But Auric was dead, and the Drathkar who had killed him were still breathing. That was unacceptable. Kane's form blurred as he moved through the corridors, his augmented physiology pushing past every limiter, every safety protocol. He wasn't just a wolf anymore. Auric had seen to that, gifting him enhancements that made him faster, stronger, deadlier than anything nature had designed. The boarding party on Deck 7 never saw him coming. One moment they were advancing toward the civilian quarters. The next, their formation was chaos. Kane moved like liquid death, his claws, enhanced with monomolecular edges, tearing through armor as if it were paper. His jaws closed around throats. His speed was a weapon all its own. They shot him. Plasma bolts seared his flanks, burned through muscle and bone. He didn't stop. They tried to retreat. He followed. In space, Dravara fought with the fury of a dying star. 3 Drathkar cruisers lay crippled in her wake, their hulls torn open, their crews scattered to the void. But there were so many more. And even her ancient strength had limits. A railgun slug caught her left wing, shattering bone and membrane. She spiraled, caught herself, kept fighting. Another impact, this time against her chest. She felt ribs crack, felt her own fire burning inward. Worth it, she thought. All of it. Worth it. Through the pain, through the fading link between them, she felt Kane's presence flickering. He was hurt. Badly hurt. But still he fought. Still he tore through the enemy with mechanical precision, protecting the refugees until the last escape pod launched. The Valiant Dawn's reactor reached critical mass. In her final moments, as the ship became a miniature sun, Dravara thought of Auric's smile when he'd broken her chains. She thought of his hand on her snout, his voice calling her friend when no one else would. Kane, bleeding out on Deck 7 surrounded by enemy corpses, thought of running beside Auric through the forests of New Terra, remembered the first time Auric had called him brother. The explosion consumed everything, the Valiant Dawn, the Drathkar fleet, the 2 companions who had refused to surrender. But the refugee ships escaped. 2,000 souls, saved by a commander who gave everything, and the dragon and wolf who loved him enough to do the same. In the end, the Drathkar learned what humanity had always known, that bonds forged in loyalty and sacrifice could never truly be broken. Even in death they fought as one,